Welcome to Open Seat at the Table. My hope is that together we can make this the largest dining table in the world. Doesn't matter where you're sitting, on a couch, in your bed, the backseat of a car, or even a real dining table, we can all sit together at Open Seat at the Table. My career path is led so that I sit and eat alone most nights, and I miss talking and having good conversations around the dining table with my friends and family. So to get that back, I've decided to ask random people to sit and enjoy a meal with me, to have a good conversation, and to tell us some of their stories. Everybody has a story somebody needs to hear. If this sounds interesting or exciting, please like, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss a story. On to their stories. Welcome everybody for tuning in to it tonight. And tonight we have Mike Wilson.
How you doing?
He owns a pizza parlor in my local town and came in, had pizza. My wife has a dietary issue and he happens to cater to that. And it's really good food. And he told me just a brief life story of him. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so now I'm doing this and getting people's life stories and the stories. I thought, what a perfect guest to have and tell us about his life story. So Mike, just start where you want to start and
Thank you.
go right on along with what you want.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a blessing to meet people like yourself and doing what I love to do. I started off. I was born in New Jersey. I lived there for half my life until I was about 24. I started running nightclubs and I was a touring drummer for a little while. I did a benefit concert for a friend of mine that was killed in a car accident. And it started out just this little concert that, just a bunch of friends were in bands taking the stage. This woman was the bar manager of one of the bars I was in a couple of times, played with, and had 3 kids and was married to a captain of a volunteer fire department on the Jersey Shore. And so she was kind of the breadwinner. And I wanted to raise some money for the family. So I started putting this show together and ended up turning into this, from a 3 or 4 hour show into an all day show. And I started calling some companies like Fender and BC Rich and, guitar companies and drum companies and just telling the story, what I wanted to do and why I was doing it. And they started donating a BC Rich Warlock and Fender Strat and things like that, and cymbals and drums and all this crazy stuff. So I got a little, I was 17, so I got a little egotistical about it, and I started figuring I'm going to call the bigwigs. So I called my favorite rock and roll radio station in New York City called WNEW. It was a 102.7 right in New York City, and classic rock radio, and told them the story, and they told me that they pick one charity every month to get behind and to advertise for. So he's going to run it up the flagpole and let me know, what he can do. And they said that they wanted to promote the show. They liked what I was doing. They wanted to promote the show, but I needed a national act on it. So they put Willie Nile on the act on the show, which kind of blew my mind because he was kind of the next Bob Dylan, what they were promoting him as. And next thing you know, there's, these advertisements 5 times an hour. Mike Wilson Productions presents, and kind of blew my mind because I had no intention of getting into that business in that way. And then these, clubs started offering me different nights and stuff like that. So I started booking shows all over New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and, just wherever. And got to work with a lot of really cool people and got to work with a lot of big bands and started collecting along the way and worked with bands like Kansas. They gave me the warm-up show for their reunion tour at 17 years old. And they were broken up for, I think, 18 years at the time or 19 years. So they broke up before I was born. And I got their warm-up before arenas. So it was really strange. But it kind of put me on the map a little bit, and that was a lot of fun for a long time, probably about 6-7 years. And and I had a little bit of a heart problem and left the business and, moved out to California and moved to LA and started doing extra work on TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And it's when I first got to LA, it was around OJ time, the whole trial thing for the OJ trial. And I had taken from Penn Station, New York, when I moved to LA, I took a train. I took the Silver Bullet going across and cuts through, takes 3 days going from Penn Station to California. And it cuts through Chicago and has like 6 hour layover in Chicago and keeps going to LA. And I met this woman on the train that was really, really sweet woman. And we were just talking and she seemed pretty adventuresome, so she wanted to hang out when we got back and she talked me into going to the OJ trial. So it was the civil trial when that whole thing was going on.
Yeah.
And so I wore the only nice suit that I brought with me. And, and we went to the OJ trial in Santa Monica and I won the little raffle to get in and sit in the trial.
In the
galley. Yeah. And I was seated right behind OJ's bodyguard. The guy's name was Tommy. He looked like Sylvester Stallone. He was the guy that was always with him. Okay. I see the old clips. And I was just talking to him. I was just BSing with him, and super nice guy. I thought he was really, really nice. And then there was the barrier, and then the defense table, and so you got the Goldmans on one side, and OJ and all of his lawyers on, like 4 feet in front of me. And I think it was every hour, they would dismiss the court to go on break. And there was one set of doors off to the side, and then there was the main doors where the public hallways in the courthouse. And since I was talking to Tommy, I just walked with him out these little doors that I wasn't supposed to be in, apparently. And I'm out in this really quiet hallway, and all these news places, people are kind of cordoned off. They had the little ropes and the security, and everyone's like looking down the hallway, and they see, me talking to Tommy, I guess. And OJ walks out and sticks his hand out and it's like Orenthal James or whatever his full name is. And the wise guy in me was this close and just going, "What's up, killer?" And I look back and I kind of wanted to, but I ended up hanging out with Tommy the rest of the day. So I'm glad I didn't. But and then the Goldmans walk out. Fred Goldman and his sister walks out. This was the day of the civil trial where they showed the tapes of the bar mitzvah that Ron Goldman went to. It was that day. That's the day I was in the court. And Fred came out and introduced himself, and we had a little conversation. And his sister came out and introduced herself, and we had this is like within my first week in LA, so the first couple of days in LA, and a Twilight Zone moment. Here I am at the OJ trial and just getting to LA. So that's what kind of started me off in LA as a welcome to California, New Jersey. And then I ended up getting into the extra work and stuff like that. Good old central casting.
Right.
You hear a lot about central casting from the last president, but we were doing a lot of TV shows like ER and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and things like that. And I did Scream 2, the horror film Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4. I was in Scream 2, and that is where I met my ex-wife. I got to kill her when I met her. So it was an interesting way to meet somebody. Yeah. And it was like a 3-day shoot down in Hollywood, and it was for that scene that Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps are in the movie theater, and they were watching the Stab premiere. It's like the part of the movie where they watch the movie, based on the murders. Yeah, the movie based on the movie. Yeah. So it was that scene, and it was a 3-day shoot. So I got a lot of time to get to know this girl, and we ended up getting married and having 2 incredible kids. They're now 12 and 17. God, I'm old, but it was an interesting chapter as well, and I did a lot of strange little turns in life. When you go from the music scene into the movies and TV, and just getting to work with people you'd never expect to even have a conversation with, and you're hanging out with them, having lunch or something, and you're just like, wow, cool. Right? All right, I like
Good times.
that.
Good times,
Yeah. It's like that's something. That's next page. It's
Right.
so I ended up moving up to well, her family owns a big 10 acres on the side of the mountain up by Yosemite in a little town called North Fork. And beautiful property, really nice, peaceful, quiet. So I went up for a holiday with her family, and I made the decision that I want to move to a more peace and quiet,
Right.
lifestyle.
Understand that.
I wanted to relax a little more and not be going 100 miles an hour without anywhere to go. Like most of the people in New York, New Jersey, and LA, and I just decided I want to move. No one believed me. The whole family in unison looked at me and was like, "Yeah, right, city boy, sure."
Yeah.
I said, "No, really, I'm going to move up." So I moved up, and she followed soon after because I don't think she thought I was serious. And been there almost 20 years, and up on the side of the mountain. I started off. We ended up expecting our first. I couldn't get a job anywhere in the mountains because I was overqualified for everything. So I had to come up with a company just to create some situation where I could get paid and make a living. So I started a business called Jersey Dogs, which was a gourmet hot dog business with 6 franchise levels. And I had to start it on a ridiculous budget. So I bought a little mobile food unit and put it on the side of a parking lot on the side of a off street in Oakhurst, and it got really, really popular. And it was kind of a scary thing. It got really, really popular, and I was about to move into the restaurant, and the Jersey Dogs restaurant, and open one of those. And I started helping a lot of businesses around the area and trying to raise money for them and do a lot of cross marketing stuff. I've always believed any type of business should be a platform to help those around you and help the community and stuff like that. I think that's overlooked quite often these days, and it's kind of heartbreaking because it's what we should all be about in the first place.
Right.
So I was helping a winery up there, and there was a little bit of an accident, and there was 3,400 pounds of wine grapes dropped on my hand and wrist. So I had to put Jersey Dogs aside and go through 7, 8 years of surgeries to save my arm, to save my hand, which ended up, giving me use of my pinky pretty well. But I used that time to spend more time with my boy. My oldest son was. It happened right around his kindergarten time, and I stayed volunteering in the school for about 4 or 5 years, between all my medical appointments and surgeries and physical therapy and all the different versions of the hand stuff they had me in.
Right.
I would just go and help out at the school and volunteer at the school and spend as much time as I can with them. So
I think that's the most influential time in the youth's life.
Absolutely.
So it's good.
And I didn't want to live angry. So my takeaway from that whole time was the ability to spend time with my son that most dads never get.
Right.
And that's what I focus on rather than any of the discomfort, the pain, the inconvenience. And that was kind of the turning point of that epiphany in my life, is instead of looking at it as friends of mine dropped something on my hand and took all this stuff from my life and, took my ability to throw a ball and bathe my son and little things like that. I stopped looking at it as 3,400 pounds or 3,000 pounds plus falling on my hand and started looking at it as that's the weight of a Lamborghini Murcielago. And I still have my hand. I'm blessed, rather than people I trusted hurt me and I'm angry. And that flipped a switch in my mind, that carries to this day of how I interpret things that happen in my life. So all the cool things, that have happened, that's probably the defining moment of my evolution of thought. is my ability to interpret things in more of a positive light which helped because I have needed it a lot since then. So fast forward, after all those surgeries, I went back to culinary school to learn how to use a chef knife with a little, with my pinky and kind of one of those with the chef knife, and learn a couple of tricks. And the 49ers sent down basically recruiters to pull chefs up to go up to the stadium. And they hired me on as, supervisor management. And they basically put me in charge of these VIP clubs where I was catering to players, I was catering to celebrities, I was catering to, it was really, really a cool little, transformation. And then after a couple of the smaller VIP clubs, they put me in charge of the Citrix Owners Club, which was the main VIP club of Levi's Stadium. And there's like 5 kitchens and, 2 full bars, wine bars, the whole 9 yards. And it was just such a blast. It was just such a cool moment, cool couple of years, because you get to, rub elbows with, people like Magic Johnson and Steph Curry and the 49ers players and, all that. And just a really, it's cool being able to have conversations, with people you never expect to bump into. And here they are coming back week after week and remembering you, and saying, hey, Chef Mike. Oh, cool. Oh, hey, Steph Curry. Cool. And it was kind of a weird thing. But after being in the music industry for a while and getting to rub elbows and getting to know a lot of people, it was cool. It was a comfortable fit. I enjoyed it, but I was away from my kids. I was away from my sons, and I missed it. And so I stuck around until after Super Bowl 50. I wanted to, that was a bucket list thing for me. I've never been to a Super Bowl. I've never been to a World Series. So I got to serve and got to run Citrix during Super Bowl 50. And that was just an insane, even the lead up, we were talking, 12-hour days, 14-hour days, and, even 20-hour plus days. And I'd get to the hotel and I'd literally fall asleep standing up against the wall for a couple hours and go back to work. And just exhausting, but just the experience was just so cool. And just seeing how everything works and everything behind the scenes of a production like that. And coming from the music side of the world, seeing how they put together the halftime show. And for weeks, they would have like 18-wheeler size beds of the trucks. And they were stage sections. And they had these little armies, this very choreographed thing of how they run in and they kind of, maneuver, and they set up the whole entire stage in like 10 minutes or something like that. So they have to rehearse this over and over and over, the setup and the breakdown. And it was just insane watching this. And then you'd see the rehearsals of things no one else got to see until the day. And little messages on the TV saying if you're caught recording in any way, shape, or form, you lose your credentials, you could get sued, all this other crazy stuff.
Right, yeah.
So just seeing that was really, really cool.
I think the neatest part about going to a rock concert is staying after the band leaves when they're trying to kick you out of the facility and watching them tear down.
Absolutely.
It's amazing that the choreographed work, and it's fast.
And it's that, but in that type of setting, it's fast because it's so massive, but it's like hours. But
because they got to be on the road because it's got to be somewhere else tomorrow night.
Exactly. But Super Bowl, it's like 10 minutes,
right?
10 minutes to set up, 10 minutes to break down. And you see these people, and then you've got like 3 or 4 acts that are basically crammed into one show.
Right.
And everything, you just see the building of it. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool thing to be part of. So it was definitely a highlight, definitely a highlight. And then the culinary, group sent me up to, and a couple of other chefs, up to AT&T for the Giants World Series against the Royals. So I got to go there and pretend to work and watch the World Series. They overbooked the chefs. So being a supervising chef, they gave me the ability to make a choice. I could either go home after getting a hotel with a couple other chefs
Right.
and being up there for the 2 days for the series we were supposed to get, or I could go into the stadium and basically pretend I'm busy and watch the game and get paid for it. So I decided that was a better deal for me. So the rest of it.
I agree. Well, I hope you enjoyed Mike's story as much as I did. He has such a interesting story. I'm going to have to break it into 2 parts. So if you're enjoying his story and want to know more about him and how he became the West Coast franchise king, then please like and subscribe so you won't miss when I post the rest of his story. When he was talking about the grapes landing on his arm, the 34 pounds of grapes, reminded me that when I was working construction and was crossing the street, when I was doing directional drilling, we were drilling along the railroad tracks, and there was the train station on one side and a train maintenance yard on the other side, and we were drilling underneath all the rail lines going to the maintenance yard. We were putting in about a 12-inch casing, maybe a 10-inch casing, and was one of the longest lengths of drill that we'd done. And so we'd been there for about a week and a half or so, and there was a rock quarry up the road, and the dump truck drivers had been going back and forth, and so they got to see us and knew that we were there and what we were doing. And I was going to cross the street to get from one side to the other side of the street, and one of the dump truck drivers waved me and said that I could go ahead and walk in front of him. So once traffic cleared going the opposite direction, I had walked out. When I stepped out from in front of his truck, a guy had passed on the shoulder of the road, and as soon as I stepped out, I never saw him coming. He hit me about 35 mile an hour, and carried me about 15 feet or so, and then I threw me forward, and then he ran my feet over, and it had broken, dislocated my ankle. And so the struggle of getting back on my feet and the surgeries and the time, the recovery, I can understand what he went through with his arm. And so it really touched me to hear that he had that struggle, and that his outlook on life changed after that. And he has a good outlook on life now. So remember, treat your wife or your spouse like a king or queen. Treat others better than you want to be treated, and you'll always have a good life. Work harder than anybody that you work with, and work like you own the business, and you always have a good success in business. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.